Dan Oman, Ashley Mayu, taking a look at race number 10 at Del Mar on Sunday. 2-year-old Calabreds getting set to try stakes action in the CTBA Stakes. Here's the field. We're going 5.5 furlongs for 100 grand. All 8 of these horses enter the field off of maiden victories with competitive Beyer speed figures. So somebody's going to take a step forward, and it'll be interesting to see how the field is bet.
It's tough. It's such a tough race, Dan, when you look at horses, some of them coming out of 4.5 furlongs or 5. I mean, now you have to go a little bit further to 5.5. A lot of them have won on the front end. Not everyone can make the lead. So I think from a betting perspective, I'm curious as well, because I do feel like in the exotics, this could be a race that's very enticing.
It's a very interesting point you make as we throw up our Timeform US pace projector about a lot of these horses showing speed. These are 2-year-olds. That's how 2-year-old maidens win their races the majority of the time, going to the front. Well, they can't all get to the frontier, but I do kind of agree with Timeform US that the 5 Broadway Venus, who is really fast, going 4.5 furlongs back in early May, I think if this one breaks, you're going to know her in the first furlong or two.
And she came out of a 4.5 furlong event, a little shorter than some in here. And I think it's just the way that she got to the lead. It was just so easy for her that she had a couple of lengths on them and was able to maintain that bid. So I agree with that. I do think the 6 is another one in terms of times. You can see that was a 5 furlong race, different day, but they were a tad quicker. At least to the half in there, not the opening quarter. And she was one that could also run away from it. But we'll see what happens. It's a tough call. I agree with it to some extent, but I think this is also still a wild card of a race.
The number 1, Nostre Virus, hinted at some ability, I thought, at a big price in her career debut at Santa Anita. She wasn't forwardly placed, but she passed some horses at the end, and it's always nice to see them show improved speed second time out, and that was the case here. When she shipped to Los Alamitos going 5/8, she took a little bit of pace pressure. I thought she was very game. Now, she's going to have to break well from this inside post, because if she doesn't, she could be shuffled back early.
I agree with that. I think I like that she was not on the front, because you have so many horses that we know they have to go to the front, and that's how they win, right? Especially in these really short races. But to see that she was still able to close, I like that in case something doesn't go wrong. She has the rail in here. She may not be the fastest, and sure, she was quick in her second start. But that's another thing to point out when you look at this field. There are, 1 or 2 horses in here that only have 1 race under their belt, and to see her take a step forward in a big way second time out, I think it does speak a lot about her.
Coral Gables Kalen is the number 2. This one was no match for Thirsty in Vegas in the career debut, but she took a nice step forward, second out like Nostre Vivas, winning a 5/8 of a mile race at Los Alamitos and sitting just a little bit off of the pace. So it's nice to know that she has that in her hip pocket, that she can settle off of horses. It seems like she's slowly improving for Doug O'Neill.
Yeah, and I think that the having the ability to have that target in front of you and then mow them down late is handy. She wasn't too far off of it in either start, and she was simply best, though second best, I should say, behind Thirsty in Vegas on debut, who she has to face again. So I think from maybe a betting perspective, it'll be curious to see how these two differ. She was able to come back next time out and win, though I will say her Beyer did decrease, but that was going from Santa Anita to Los Al.
A little bit bossy was beaten in her career debut, although she ran quite well to be second to Broadway Venus. And then they wheeled her back in 3 weeks, and she scored second time out, also going 4.5 furlongs. So with 2 races in a month for a lightly raced 2-year-old, an inexperienced baby, I don't mind them giving her a little bit of time leading up to this one.
No, and they've been working her, and you can see they've been steady works, evenly spaced. So that just tells you, no, they've just taken the break from the racing aspect of it. And she has had some fast drills and some drills on the slower side. I don't want to read into them too much, but to me, from the step up from the first race to the second race, she made a big improvement in terms of figures, in terms of finish. She was able to close in both of them quite nicely. And to me, she looked very good winning on the 26th of May.
Night with Lewis was no match for Broadway Venus in her one and only start in Southern California. Really improved in her 3 subsequent outings up in Northern California, however, scoring here in the Sacramento County Fair. Let's watch this race. And this is nice because, again, she was off the pace early. She makes a wide move, and you can see she's still learning. She's on her left lead. She's lugging in a little bit. But once she changes over to her right lead, she readily goes by the horse just by drifting out a bit.
Yeah, she was certainly green in the stretch run, but she does beat this field. She had 7 other rivals in here. She draws clear nicely. I don't mind the greenness. She's still figuring it out. And I actually don't mind that she's sort of shipped all over the place. I think that speaks to her ability as a 2-year-old to be able to do that. That's a promising sign. And this is an outfit that with their 2-year-olds, I think they spot them well and they do quite well. And um, I think the performance last time out, again, it goes back to that running style and what you prefer in a race like this. I like a horse that can sit off of it.
Broadway Venus is one that's likely going to go right to the front, as she did in her career debut, where in a blink of an eye, she was 2.5 lengths in front and she kept on maintaining the margin to the wire. She was freshened after that race. I like that they've worked her sort of longer distances, building up her stamina as she stretches out a furlong.
Yeah, I think that's key, especially with those 4.5, types of races. And you mentioned stretching out, not just a 5. She actually has a 6 furlong drill. She's had some bullet drills since that effort as well. You can see the bullet. I know it was back in June, but she seems like she's a good workhorse in the morning. She's always firing good times. And, the layoffs, maybe a little bit of a question, and the connections need to get their first win at the meet. But we talked about it with the pace projection, and you said it moments ago. She was just in front like it was nothing. And there is the ability and the possibility that she does that once again.
Thirsty in Vegas, the number 6, ran fine in her debut. She was no match for Little Bit Bossy, but the blinkers really seemed to perk her up second time out. She showed much better speed. She got right to the lead and she poured it on in the stretch, as we see. She's just going to open up in the final furlong, win by 5, and get a very respectable buyer speed figure for a 2-year-old in June, a 69.
Yeah, and a big field here once again that she just runs away. And we talked about she's going to have to face one of those rivals again, the second place finisher. But to me, she's being called upon here, but she's still opening up quite nicely on the field, and everyone else is just scrambling for a minor share. So I think the equipment change was key for her. And I'm going to be curious now with the way that this race is going to be run. Will she be forward once again? Will she not be quick enough? How will that play with the blinkers? But visually impressive, and she comes in here with the best buyer in the field.
Thirsty Mama, the number 7, should also be part of the pace. She just missed in her career debut against In the Air Tonight and then came right back second time out. She made the lead and she lasted. It'll be interesting to see if she can sit. I'm not sure she's as fast as the 5 or the 6. If she does show the ability to rate, she might park herself in a really good 3 wide tracking spot.
And she's quick. So knowing kind of how 4.5 and 5 played out with her, my one knock would be she got caught at 4.5. Okay, she was able to win at 5 because she had that margin that was enough. But another horse that showed a little bit of greenness in the stretch, what's going to happen now at 5.5? She's going to also, I think, have some more company, and she might not make the lead in here. So very curious to see what'll happen.
And this is a nice debut for the 8, In the Air Tonight. We're going to take a look at this performance back on May the 26th. Turning for home, Thirsty Mama has the lead. In the Air Tonight showed tactical speed to sit second, and she changes her lead there and she sets sail after Thirsty Mama, who digs deep herself. But In the Air Tonight really wants this, and she gets up in the shadow of the wire, and she earned a strong 67 buyer. I can see a similar outside stalking trip coming here.
And I liked her stride to the wire. It just, to me, looked like a horse that wants to go further than 4.5, and she's going to get that additional furlong. And I think that sort of style is going to play really well to her. And I don't think 5.5 is going to be the stopping point for her either.
Let's take a look at our top selections for the CTBA Stakes. Really a fascinating race with some speed in here. Thirsty in Vegas look good with blinkers. I don't want her to get involved in a duel. Maybe she can sit second to get the jump on the closers.
And maybe she just won't be quick enough. I think that's the challenging thing here with this race at 5.5. There's so many horses that showed early speed at 4.5 and 5, and not everyone can be forward in here. So I think when it came down to, at least for me, deciding between the 6 and the 8, it was just how easy she beat that big field last time out. And I'm hoping that she can do something similar. But it was a close, choice here between the 6 and the 8. I think the 8 is really going to benefit from that added ground.
Yeah, like you, I'm with the nap trained horses. I like the 6 and the 8 as well. 6823 for Ashley, 6837 for me. It's the CTBA on a nice card at beautiful Del Mar on Sunday. Best of luck.